Are you sitting comfortably? Then we'll begin.
Well, hello there, friends in podcast land, and welcome to episode 75 of There's Still Time, the AFTN podcast. I'm your host, Michael McCall, and I'm flying solo this episode as we bring you another special Tales from the Training Ground. Now, Steve and myself hope to bring you another podcast episode later this week in which we'll kind of look at a little bit back at the Chivas game and ahead to the LA game on Saturday. So I don't really want to talk too much about the Chivas game on Saturday, because frankly, well, there really isn't too much to talk about. 0-0, second 0-0 result in 3 games. Third clean sheet in a row though. So it depends how you want to look at it, glass half full, glass half empty, as the article I wrote on whitecapsfc.com on Monday kind of covered. Another aspect of that is the Whitecaps are unbeaten in 6 games, or just 1 win in the last 7. Again, how do you want to look at that? Glass half full, glass half empty. There were a couple of positives that you could take from the Chivas game. Great performance by Russell Teibert, who came in as captain. Steven Beitashour as well, I thought, had one of his best games as a Whitecap. And for me, the man of the match was Johnny Leveron. I just think Johnny had just such a solid game. Him and Andy O'Brien are really forming a very, very good partnership in the centre of defence. So it's going to be interesting to see what Kyle Robinson does now that Kendall Waston is at the club and looking to get him into the team. Now, one of those positives that we mentioned that you can take out of Saturday's game was a 3rd straight clean sheet in a row. With the way that the team had leaked goals prior to the World Cup break, a lot of focus has been put on kind of shoring up the defence, not making them so leaky, not making so many mistakes, basically not shooting himself in the foot so much. There's still been a couple of incidents, Rio Coker's 2 penalties that he gave away, Carlisle Mitchell's still inexplicable handball that he did in the box that gave away the penalty against Dallas. But the 3 clean sheets in a row has given the defence a lot of confidence. And a lot of the credit for that has been given to Andy O'Brien, who's come back into the team for the last 2 games. So let's hear some of the players' thoughts on those clean sheets. First of all, we're going to hear from goalkeeper David Ousted, then right back Steven Beitashour, and finally striker Omar Salgado.
3 straight clean sheets for you guys. Just what's been the key to your guys' defensive kind of success?
I think we've been sound down there. I think we've defended well, marking up, clearing when we needed to, and I think especially the back four has been solid, but the midfield as well has helped out a lot by not allowing those runs to get through.
How much of your confidence has been the fact you had 3 clean sheets the last 3 games? You know, how's that made you feel? The fact you've been able to keep the ball out of the net.
It's great. You know what, as a keeper, you like to keep those clean sheets. That said, I'll trade in some of the clean sheets for a win soon. I'm glad that we're having clean sheets. It's showing that we've been doing really well down there, but I'm still in the mindset that we need to go win the games.
3 straight clean sheets, like David mentioned. Just what's been the key to you guys' kind of defensive success the last few games?
There's a lot of things that go into kind of team defending. Our back line, having Andy back especially, he's the anchor back there and he talks a lot, which is great. And we're just sticking close to each other and working well together, so that's been good.
3 straight clean sheets for you guys. Just what's kind of been the key to that defensive kind of success?
Yeah, we've played very well defensively. We've done very well. I think big key to our success has been Andy O'Brien and Johnny. They've really done well for us and kind of organized us very well.
Now, talking of Omar Salgado, of course, one of the other big talking points that came out of Saturday's game was Omar's little kind of hissy fit, his strop when he got subbed off in the 61st minute. Omar, for those that didn't see it, ran off the pitch, didn't acknowledge the coaching staff, didn't acknowledge his teammates, the handshakes that were out, just ran past them all and sat down on the bench. Now, that in isolation, it's no big deal. I mean, it's something you see in football matches around the world every weekend. Now, unfortunately for Omar, he's not a first-time offender. He's kind of stormed off the pitch before. He did it in pre-season when his family were at one of the games in Arizona. Didn't acknowledge Carroll then. He's done it before. He's shown attitude at training before. He's got into fights with teammates at training on several occasions this year. He's got into kind of a fight with Kikuta Mane. He's got into a fight with Samara Kugbe. He's got in a fight with Jordan Harvey. And then I wasn't at training last week, but someone fed back to me that he kind of got into a bit of a pushing match with Pedro Morales. So he has got form. That's why this attitude that he has shown on Saturday has become such a big issue. It's maybe been a little bit overblown by some aspects of the media, and I'm also not sure that it does anyone any good to have certain media people calling him out, calling him an idiot on air, and just saying what a bad person he basically is for the club. But anyway, Omar addressed it today. He apologised. Carl Robinson addressed it as well. So let's hear a little bit now from Omar and Carl just talking about what happened at the weekend. A big talking point obviously from Saturday was how you came off the pitch. A lot's been made of it. Is it just frustration that you haven't had playing time, or is it just frustration that you weren't getting the goals?
Yeah, it was emotional. It was never against Robo. I talked to Robo. I was upset that, more frustrated that things weren't going our way. It was difficult to break their line, and coming off, I was feeling like it was opening up, and I was just like, damn, I might have been able to score then.
It's not been the first time this season you've had some clashes in training with teammates and stuff. Do you feel you maybe bring too much intensity to the game sometimes?
Yeah, I'm just an emotional person, I guess. I like to bring out the passion to the field, and yeah, sometimes I get a little frustrated and I don't direct it in the right way, and yeah, it was a mistake I should fix. I shouldn't come out that way, but I apologize to the team, and I was sorry.
You happy with how Omar handled his apology with your
team? Yeah, totally. I said Omar apologised to me after the game. I said at the time it wasn't acceptable. I said I'm thick-skinned, I can deal with it. He apologised to the group this morning. I think he apologised to you guys as well in relation to, that's not what we're about. Dealing with 22, 24 players, young players in a locker room is, you're going to get your ups and downs. I've been in dressing rooms where you don't want to be a fly on the wall. I can deal with someone not shaking my hand or stuff like that, but it doesn't happen again. And I made him aware of it. He's apologised to the group because it's about the group. It's not about any individual. And we move on. And now he's got to get his head down and work hard and show that he deserves to be part of this squad again.
The thing with Omar, though, is like he's had at least 3 flare-ups with teammates so far in training.
He has, yeah.
He's had other things where he stormed off. How many chances do you give a guy?
Oh no, good question. It's Omar's part of the squad at the moment, and until he's not part of the squad will be the day that I stop working with him. He's part of the squad. We'll work with him, continue to progress with him, and we'll just see how it goes along. He made a mistake. Young players make mistakes, and you're right. He has made 3 or 4 mistakes, and he has got to learn, and he's got to learn sooner rather than later. Only he will know if he doesn't do it again. If he does do it again, or if anything else happens, then we'll deal with it. But it's been nipped in the bud. It's been dealt with internally as well. He's apologised to the group, and I've said to the guys, every one of them is going to be in a situation where maybe it doesn't go their way. On Saturday, it didn't go Omar's way. He was frustrated with his performance, but he handled it the wrong way. But he's dealt with it. We've drawn a line under it, and we move on.
Now, we're not for 1 minute condoning Omar's reaction, and basically, it's kind of got to the stage that ourselves and a number of other people, it's kind of almost the straw that broke the camel's back. After he did it on Saturday, for me, that was it. I thought, look, he's had so many chances. He is not learning. We just need to ship this guy out. But I gave it a couple of days. I thought about it, didn't comment too much on it. And basically, the way that the Whitecaps are just now, We're in dire need of strikers. We only have 4 on the books. We've got Kikuta Mane, he's out of form. We've got Eric Hurtado, he's out of form. We've got Darren Mattocks, who is scoring but misses a bucket load of chances as well. We need a player like Omar to be good and contributing to the team. And if he really is serious and sincere and contrite about that apology, maybe we should give him one more chance, at least to the end of the season, just to see if he mends his ways. But I tell you what, if he does it again, if he does not learn from this, it's last chance saloon. And Omar knows this, and he knows that he really has to kind of somehow, it's almost like go to anger management classes, because he seriously has some kind of attitude problem where he is just too fired up, he's got too much testosterone, he's just too intense. Whatever it is, he has to calm down. He has to calm down at training, he has to calm down on the pitch. I like a player with passion. I like a player that kind of wears his heart on his sleeve and wants it so bad. And that is what Omar wants. He is frustrated just now, and I do get that. He is young as well, and I do get that. But you have to show a level of maturity. There's also an element, I think, that since he's been 17, he's been in MLS. Up until that time, people have probably blown a lot of smoke up his ass. Told him how good he was. He was the number 1 draft pick in 2011. He's had these horrendous injuries. He's probably never had to deal with setbacks like this in his career. He's only used to people telling him how good he is. And he's just never had any good way of coping with it and never good mentoring of coping with it. Cal Robinson has done wonders with Darren Mattocks' attitude. Can he do it with Omar Salgado's? Omar has to want to change for that to happen. I'd like to believe he does. I'd like to believe that that apology was sincere and we will see a different Omar. Time will tell. Now in all this you have to remember Omar is 20. I think we can all remember what we were like as 20-year-olds. We were not, well, me particularly, I can definitely say I wasn't the most mature guy. I didn't handle things well. That's what I put a lot of Omar's down to. On the flip side of that though, you do have other players on the team who are around the same age, even younger, who show a lot more maturity than what Omar does. Let's look at Russell Teibert. He's 21. Omar's going to be 21 soon as well. Now, Russell has been given the captain's armband. He wore it in the Voyagers Cup games. He wore it on Saturday against Chivas. He has shown maturity. And I just want to kind of play a little bit of Russell from training today as well, just to kind of show you the difference between two players. Someone that's having to apologise for a hissy fit, and then someone that's wearing the captain's armband and wants to learn, knuckle down, and be a captain for the future. So here's some things that Russell Teibert had to say from training today.
You know what? I think all year long the coaching staff has been working with me on different things, different parts of my game. And more recently it's about my passing range. It's something that I like doing. It's something that they've been working out with me, and it's something that I feel like I'm getting better at. When in that role in the center of the midfield, that's something you have to have in your game. And obviously with a manager like Carl Robinson, he is a midfielder and he can teach you those kinds of things. I've been working on with Gordon, working on with Purdy, and it's something that I want to take into my game, and I have done this past week. But even when I'm not in the team, even when the manager decides for that game it's better personnel for that game, different guys, I'm still going to work at it in training, and that's the thing. Whether we're playing or whether you're not playing on this team, you're going to get work. The coaching staff's going to treat you as if you are playing, and they're going to take care of you, and they're looking for your best interest. So that didn't just happen overnight in 1 week. That's been taught and addressed by the coaching staff all year long. It just happened to show that game against Chivas.
You're in defensive midfield on the weekend, and of course with Kofi dealing with an injury, Lab is suspended. Do you feel you'll be needing to step up again this weekend in that role?
Well, it's not a one-man show. It's 11 guys, and 11 guys need to show up. 11 guys need to show leadership. And on that day, I was the captain, but Pedro come on the field, and Pedro was the captain of this team. But that being said, we need to have 11 guys that act like a captain. And I definitely want to be one of those guys that is a leader and that does lead by example and that does organize and does communicate. I think when we go down and play against LA, everybody needs to be talking. Everybody needs to step up to the plate. Everybody needs to be a leader.
So Whitecaps, as we said, back in training on Tuesday, and it was a very intense session. The players were really up for it. They were flying into tackles, a lot of verbals going on, lots of anger going on as well when mistakes were made. Johnny Leveron at one point got beat in a move by Darren Mattocks and kicked the ball away in frustration because he was mad at himself for letting Mattocks get past him. Andy O'Brien and Nigel Reo-Coker exchanged words, a few F-bombs dropped, and just the players, they know it's down to the serious business end of the season, and they want to do well. They also know that they're all playing for places as well. And that intensity was fierce today. It was a word that we used watching from the sidelines. It was a word that the players and the management all used when they came off the pitch, independently of each other as well. There's a very fine line with intensity, and you don't want to be too tough. You don't want to be going into too hard tackles on your teammates. Omar Salgado at one point went in really hard on Kendall Waston, and Waston came up limping, and you're kind of thinking, oh no, is the new guy injured? He seemed fine by the end of the session, but that's when kind of the intensity can boil over a little bit, and Carroll sat them down. He spoke to them at the end of the training session and said, look, you guys need to rein that in. I'm all for passion, I'm all for intensity, but we don't want to hurt our teammates. You want to keep that for LA, and you want to take that fire in your belly and show it on Saturday at the StubHub Centre. At the end of the session, Carl Robinson actually sat the players down and had a word with them just about you being sensible, not flying into tackles against your teammate, keeping that aggression and that anger and that frustration for the opponents this coming Saturday in LA. And he used a very good analogy where he basically said, if you look at these small yappy dogs that you see in dog parks, they're always barking, they're always kind of going up to the bigger dogs and barking at them and trying to kind of say, hey, look, you should be scared of me, and kind of show that they're aggressive. But really they're not. They're kind of a bit cowardly, and they're doing that because they don't want any aggro. Whereas you maybe have a quiet Doberman that comes along, or a quiet Staffordshire Bull Terrier, and he doesn't make all those noises, he doesn't do the barking, but you know he could rip that little dog's head off at the end of the day, but he just goes about his business quietly. So that was kind of the thing that Carroll was trying to get across to players. You've got players that will be noisy during games, they'll mouth off during games, they'll not like a flair player getting the better of them and making them look foolish, and then when the flair player gets the ball again, they're going to try and kick them, but they can't get close to them, so they kind of run around a bit, and it's them that ends up looking foolish. And you want to be the quiet guy, the flair guy that takes it all in his stride and doesn't let things get to him. And that's the players that are going to win matches and be the difference makers in matches. So that was the message that Carl Robinson was getting across, with a few fun dog impressions thrown in. So we're going to hear what the players thought of today's intense training session. So first of all, we're going to hear from Carl Robinson, and then David Ousted, Steven Beitashour, Omar Salgado, and finally Russell Teibert.
So we get to do some dog impressions.
Do you know what I was saying or not?
Yeah.
Right, okay. Just so you know that it was relevant to...
No, I heard it was very good.
Right, okay.
I guess just going off that, what was kind of the message you were preaching at the end there towards the group?
Yeah, I'm not telling you.
Okay.
You know. Okay. No, I was just trying to say that we got to stick together as a team. We really have, and sticking together means getting the best out of each other, but in a respectable way. Training was very intense today, and it's a very fine line between bordering on competing and going over the top, and we've got to make sure that we compete without going over the top of each other. We save that for the weekend.
It looked like a pretty intense session out there. Was that the case?
Yeah, definitely. Nice to see the fire in the eyes and the will out there. That's what we need. That's what we need Monday to Friday, and that's what we need in the weekend. So great training session.
And was that the message from the coaching staff at the end there?
Yeah, definitely. You know what? There might be a couple of free kicks here and there. There might be someone kicking lumps out of you, but that's the case. That's the game. That'll happen Saturday as well. So reacting right to it and working hard.
Seemed like a pretty intense session out there. Was that the case out there?
Yeah, it was definitely intense out there, kind of game-like, which is nice. You want to train how you play, so it was good.
Omar, it looked like a pretty intense session out there. Did you guys kind of feel that as well?
Yeah, you could really tell. It was really intense today. If we keep training like that, we're going to win MLS Cup.
What do you think the reason for that kind of intensity was today in particular?
I don't know. There's a lot of competition for spots, obviously. There's just a lot of competition to get in the starting lineup, so you could feel it in training.
Looked like a pretty intense training session out there today. So what was the focus of today's training session?
Get back to work. We got a point on the road in LA and against Chivas, and now we're headed down to LA again to go against the Galaxy. So today is just about getting right back to work, doing the little things right, focusing on details, getting back to basics, and putting the hard work in. And I think for everyone that was watching, for guys that were a part of training today, they can really tell you that today was an intense training session, but it's competitive. And once we leave the field, everybody forgets about it and we go back to being a family in the locker room.
Now, part of the intensity and part of the kind of anger and frustration is the fact that the Whitecaps have drawn so many matches this year. 12 draws, so many points thrown away. And when you look at the league table, they're currently 5th. That's excellent. They're in the playoff spots. Their fate is in their own hands. When you look at the points that they've lost 7 points to Chivas, 2 to Montreal, 2 to Chicago, 2 against Dallas in a game that they dominated. That's 13 points. You look at the standings and it's like you add that 13 points in and the Whitecaps are leading the Supporters' Shield race. Now I know it's all ifs and buts and you can't look at that. Every team can kind of point to games where they should have had more points than they have. If the Queen had ball, she'd be the king. All that kind of stuff. But it's hard not to look at it. The team is so close to being a serious contender. Instead, we're 5th, in danger of the top 4 teams kind of leaving us a little bit adrift and just basically finding ourselves battling with Colorado and Portland. Probably not San Jose now, who I think have dropped out of it a bit, but battling with those teams for maybe that final playoff spot. It was something that the players kind of addressed today. They looked at the current position, what it means for the playoffs, whether the team can push forward and make the playoffs. So let's hear the thoughts of David Ousted, Steven Beitashour, Omar Salgado, and Russell Teibert.
Obviously, you guys would like more wins, but undefeated in 6 and still in the final playoff position. Can you be somewhat pleased with that?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's been talk a lot about the draws and everything. We're still undefeated in a lot of games. I think we only lost 2 out of the last 17, so we still need to build on that. We still need to be happy about that. But knowing that, we need to go for those wins.
And just, are you confident this team has what it takes to kind of go on a nice little run here towards the end of the season?
Definitely. I think we have what it takes to get into the playoffs and then, like I said, get those wins. It's down to the little details. We've been really sound the last 3-4 weeks defensively. Those details have gone our way and we've been working on them. Now it's turning the attention to the little details offensively.
Obviously, the team would like a little bit more wins, but you guys are undefeated in 6 and still in the playoff position. Can you be somewhat pleased with that?
Yeah, we're pleased that we're in 5th place. I think we could do better. Coming into the Galaxy game, beating them would put us in a good spot, and coming home against Portland would put us in even a better spot. So hopefully we can get a win in LA and keep moving forward.
The team struggled a little bit this season against the weaker teams. Do you feel that having a top team like LA and then having Portland the week after, it's really going to help the club push on a bit?
Yeah, I think so. I think once we can get a goal in, we can start getting wins. We're gonna do fine. I think. I feel like we're gonna be able to make the playoffs this year, and we're gonna do all we can to make it happen.
You guys obviously would like a couple more wins, but you're undefeated in 6, still in the playoff position. Are you fairly happy with where you are heading into the final stretch here?
I think if you're content, then you're not pushing for the top, and we're pushing for the top, so we're not content. We know that we have a good base. We know that we have a good team. We know that we have a good coaching staff, and we're in a great organization. We're going forward. We haven't plateaued, and we're going to keep going forward. We're going to keep pushing, and we know that wins are important. We know that 3 points are important, whether we're at home or whether we're away. We're going to push for the win, like we tried to do in Chivas, and now that's exactly what we have to do when we go play the Galaxy.
So next up for the Whitecaps is another trip down to Carson in the StubHub Centre. LA Galaxy the opponents. 1 loss, 1 draw against LA so far. Don't want to talk too much about this game because Steve and me are hoping to possibly do a pre-game show just in the lead up to it. We'll hopefully get that done at training on Thursday. But I want to play a little bit of the early audio from training this week about what the players are thinking for this game coming up with LA. So we're going to hear again from Ousted, Beitashour, Salgado, Russell Teibert and Coach Kyle Robinson on just the kind of game they're expecting against LA and the threat that the Galaxy will pose and what the Whitecaps can do to address that.
So you guys played the Galaxy twice in April. Just talk a bit about them and kind of the challenges they pose.
A great team. You've seen it week in, week out. They're they're good offensively. They have some guys up front that can score goals, but also I think they've shown defensively that they can keep teams from scoring. So that's going to be a tough test, but something I think we have the tools to solve.
And with the Galaxy coming up this weekend, just what's the key to kind of getting a positive result against that team?
Yeah, they're a good team. You know, I know they had a tough outing last weekend, but up until that point, they've been very dynamic offensively, and they like to counter. So we just have to stay organized when we have the ball, and that's something that, you know, Andy and myself, we try to do. We try to talk to the guys in front of us, make sure we're focused and concentrating. You know, just because we have the ball doesn't mean we can just switch off. And also doing the little things like we did last game. I thought we did a great job. The attention to detail was great, and we just have to keep that going this Saturday.
Playing on the same pitch in 2 weeks in a row must kind of help because it's big and it's wide and the dimensions of it. Getting sort of that on-pitch experience of it must be kind of helpful knowing you're going to go back there and play on the same surface.
Yeah, I think so. It's always nice when you have that. It's kind of like playing at home 2 times in a row. So over there we got to play on the grass. We're used to it. I don't know if I feel like Galaxy might water their pitch a little bit more. It seemed a little dry with Chivas. I actually think they just wet our defensive side in the second half and kept the offensive side dry. So I don't know if you guys want to look into that, but it seemed that way.
You guys went kind of toe-to-toe with the Galaxy back in April. Can you take kind of confidence from those performances heading into this weekend?
Yeah. You know, anytime you play a team, you kind of know what they're like. They're obviously a very good team. They got great movement off the ball, and you know, they're a bunch of veterans who've been there. They've won a couple championships in the past year, so it's going to be a tough game, and we'll see once come Saturday, you know, who wants it more.
You've had some success against the Galaxy in your careers. What's it about that team that kind of brings out the best in you?
I think these games are one of the best games to play in. You know, you touch on Portland, you touch on Seattle, and for me, I like playing against LA. I like playing against, you know, a so-called top team in this league, and it's always nice going out playing against the best and trying to beat the best. We certainly have a lot of great players, and they certainly have a lot of great players. So it's going to be a great match. It's going to be an exciting match, and I just can't wait for the weekend.
3 straight clean sheets for you guys. Just what's the key to kind of making sure that happens against guys like Keane, Donovan, Zardes, and whatnot?
Details, little details. You can't look over the small things, and that's what we addressed here today. Our shape, you know, our communication, our organization, little things that the coaching staff has been taking care of all year long and have been addressing all year long, and that we have taken care in training all year long. So we just need to show that on the weekend.
Just going into the weekend, you played the Galaxy twice this year. Just how tough a team are they?
They're a very good team. They're a top team in our conference, which is very strong. I got told today that we've played them 6 times away from home and lost 6 games, so it's going to be a very interesting game for us. It's a game that we've got to go in with no fear and go and enjoy ourselves, because I'm sure no one will expect us to do nothing. I do. I expect us to go there and put on a positive performance, do the ugly jobs very well, and then try and put our own stamp on the game. So that's what we'll be working on all week.
That's that'll be their 3rd game in 3, Carl. You've been on the other end of that. Is that a slight advantage and an opportunity for you guys?
It can be. But they're a very strong team. They've got a very strong squad, and you know, I'm sure that Bruce will look at that with the game in Colorado on Wednesday and decide what he thinks is the best way to approach it. Those 3 games in the week, and it is hard to manage it. The schedule's sometimes a little bit unbalanced for certain teams at certain stages. So hopefully we can try and take advantage of that. We'll have a good week's training. We'll try and be fresh to put on a this performance.
You guys put in 2 kind of good performances against them back in April. Can you take some confidence from that heading into this weekend?
Yes, we can. We haven't beaten them this year, which is unfortunate. We played very well at their place without getting anything, and we played very well at home with a 2-2 tie, I believe. So it's a tough game for us. It's a game where I know that they'll come and attack us, and hopefully we'll be able to attack them. Very open game, but if we concentrate on what we can do, then there's a good chance we can get a very good result.
Now, for me, there's no doubt that the Whitecaps still need a little bit of freshening up. There's been players linked to the Whitecaps. The latest one was Julian Jenner, a Dutch winger striker who is kind of out of favour with his Hungarian side. He's played in the Dutch leagues, he's played in Hungary, and he's kind of on a free at the moment. He has had interest as well from the Championship. There's been interest shown from Wolverhampton Wanderers and from Blackpool. Now, Blackpool are in a bit of a mess at the moment, so I don't see that being as big an appeal, unless Blackpool say to him, look, we want to build the club around you, which might appeal to him a little bit. For me, if you were given the option just now of playing in the Championship with Wolverhampton Wanderers or coming to MLS and playing with the Whitecaps, as a player, I would pick right now Wolves, because Wolves are on the rise again. They had a great season in League One last year, stormed to the Championship, looking to do well in the Championship this year and then get back into the Premier League. So, I mean, the options for a player to go there, I think, at this stage of his career is maybe what's going to be what sways him. We don't know if he's had that offer yet. He said he's going to decide this week. But Cal Robinson addressed that at training today, and he also wanted to speak just in general about trades in MLS, transfers, who he might look to bring in, just some stuff like that. So here's a little bit more from Robbo.
No, he's one of a number of players that we've looked at. To say that we've offered him a contract is totally untrue. We haven't. We have looked at him. But he's one of a number of players that we've looked at, and it's difficult at the moment because of the cap scenario where we're able to do things or we're not able to do things. So it's just an ongoing process, and unless players are free transfers, which obviously Julian is, but other players are, then we can't really do anything with players that are contracted to other clubs. So we'll move on. Is something going to happen in the near future? Maybe. There's no guarantee because obviously we're in a cap-orientated league. So we'll just continue to keep monitoring that, and if we get someone in, great. If we don't, then we just regroup as a group and we see what we can do between now and the end of the season.
Are you actively trying to pursue something before September 15th?
Well, I'm always looking. I said, I looked at trying to bring players in January when I did, and I looked at in July. I've managed to bring in Kendall, but we've also got targets in January of next year as well. So if we can try and bring someone in now that I think will enable to help the group, I don't want to bring a player in that's just going to sit on the bench or just be part of the squad. They have to come in and be able to affect the team because we've got a very, very good group of players here. If they are, then we'll seriously look at it. If it's not, then I'll just be a little bit patient and maybe try and look to add a couple in January.
Is there much trade discussion going on? It seems like at a league where everybody's in playoff contention, it might be hard to make a deal.
It is hard. The amount of conversations you have about trades is phenomenal. You probably talk about 10, 12 different players a week, and maybe one gets done every month. So it's all, managers and GMs feel each other out and say, well, what are you looking to do? And they ask you who you're trying to move rather than just say who they want to move. And it's a chess game. It really is. And will we look to openly do it within the league? Yes, maybe. There are certain players that I do like, but if I've got to give up one of my core pieces, and I don't think it's worthwhile, then I won't do it, because it's not about just the short term, it's about the medium and long term as well. And there will be growing pains, I know that. I'm willing to accept them, I have to accept them, but the important thing is the group and making sure the intensity, the spirit, the camaraderie stays amongst it, and it certainly is.
So after Carl talked about that, I asked him as well just about the development of our young guys. We're getting into the business end of this season now. There's a lot of guys that haven't played regular minutes. They might be called upon. We still might have a centre-back crisis in September because there's a very good chance that Johnny Leveron could be away with Honduras, Kendall Waston could be away with Costa Rica, Carlisle Mitchell could be away with Trinidad and Tobago. So the Whitecaps could lose 3 centre-backs during September, and then we're left with Andy O'Brien and Christian Dean. Now, Christian Dean obviously hasn't had a lot of game time this year, and the brief minutes that he has had, it hasn't been as a central defender, it's been as a left-back. There's other players too that haven't really had a lot of game time minutes, and who knows, an emergency could crop up that they're called upon. There had been talk in the pre-season that the Whitecaps were going to arrange a lot of kind of friendly games. They were going to have some games against Portland and Seattle, play 3 games up here, 3 games down there. That never happened. So it's something I wanted to ask Carol, just why that hasn't happened. Is there still plans to maybe get these players minutes and just basically the future with trying to get these guys some game time just in case they are called upon?
In pre-season, it was kind of mentioned you'd hope to play some reserve games against Seattle and Portland, maybe 3 at home, 3 away. That hasn't happened.
No.
Why did it not happen? Do you have any plans to try and keep the fringe guys fit for this crucial end?
Yeah, well, I think if you look at how many players that I leave behind when I travel, there's only probably 2 or 3 guys. And the subs with injuries and suspensions hasn't been ideal. So I'd only be having 5 or 6 guys at 90 minutes competitive game. So it's pretty difficult at certain times, and we have looked at it. It hasn't happened. Hopefully with the intention of the USL team next year, then guys will get more games next year. But we can arrange a game against UBC or SFU if we want to get them games. But if training is as competitive as this, then I'm more than happy to get their fitness within these sessions.
Now the transfer window is now closed, but the MLS roster freeze doesn't take place until mid-September. In that time, the Whitecaps can still add players that are out of contract. do internal trades within MLS, and of course promote some homegrown talent. Now last year Sam Adekugbe was promoted to the club in August. Marco Carducci joined the MLS roster in March this year. So the final thing I asked Carl today was, what's the chance of seeing a couple more homegrown talent added to the roster? In particular, I'm thinking of Marco Bustos and Kians Froese, another couple of midfielders whom we may not see any minutes this year, but it might give Carl an option to have them on the bench, and who knows, throw them on, get them a little bit of experience and see what they can do. So I asked Carl about that. Is there any chance that we can see these guys before this year's roster freeze?
And then last year Sam kind of joined, I think, about August. Is there any plans for any homegrown additions this year?
Maybe, yes. It'd be good. Another 2 youngsters into the fray would be very nice.
So reading between the lines, I take that as quite a positive, and I do expect to see Marco Bustos and Kians Froese on the MLS roster, maybe even by the end of August. So that's it for this episode of the AFTN podcast. Hope you've enjoyed listening and you haven't just got bored too much of just listening to my voice. As we say, we hope to be back with a kind of pre-game show with Steve maybe later this week. If not, we'll try and do a post-game show, Portland pre-game show next week at some point. If you want to find out more about us, you can read all our stuff. AFTN is on Canadian Soccer News. You can get to there by going to aftn.ca, canadiansoccernews.com. You can follow me, Michael McCall, on Twitter at AFTN Canada, and I'm also the Whitecaps beat reporter for MLSsoccer.com and Soccerly.com. Also just keep an eye out because I'm going to be posting some things hopefully in the next few days. As anyone that's a long-time listener or anyone that knows me will know, I'm an East Fife fan. That's my team in Scotland, my local team. And the East Fife Supporters Trust, which I had a hand setting up before I moved over to Canada, is in negotiations with East Fife to buy the club. Make East Fife another supporters-owned club. A lot of hard work ahead, a lot of money needing raised. We're hoping to do a donation drive, maybe a Kickstarter campaign. So I'm going to be tapping you guys up. So any spare money that you've got, if you want to become owners of a football club in Scotland, if you want some nice maybe rewards for that as well, stay tuned, we'll see what we can do. So until next time, thanks for listening. Take care. And mon the Caps.
When you're listening in some far-flung corner of the globe to the World Service of a Saturday afternoon, crackly reception, interference, cosy, marvellous. Somehow comforting, isn't it? You know, legendary names, fathers and sons on the terraces, cheesy peas at half-time, pipe for dad, mum's at home making the tea. Oh, everything's all right with the world, isn't it? Saturday afternoon is football.